Good morning and welcome to Best Practice Roundtable, Post-COVID Reopening Procedures. This morning's session is brought to you by our diamond sponsor, Day Automation. We're grateful for their generous support and hope you'll visit them in the virtual exhibit hall. Our speakers today are Kim Parahus, Keith Langlotz, and Keith Watkins, CDF. Ms. Parahus is Director of Facilities at Hewlett-Woodmere UFSD in Long Island and serves as the current President of the New York State School Facilities Association. Mr. Langlotz is the Director of Facilities for the Williamsville Central School District in Western New York and is past President of NYSSFA. Mr. Watkins is Assistant Director of Facilities for the City School District of New Rochelle, is also past President of NYSSFA and serves as Chair of its Accreditation and Corporate Liaison Committees. He is also current President of the National School Plant Managers Association. Team, I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning, everybody. Keith Langlotz, do you want to start?
I will. So anybody who's on this call that may have attended this in person at the Saratoga conference, the concept is really kind of an open forum, kind of similar to our Thursday chats, to really discuss the topic at hand for all of us, which is dealing with this the coronavirus and the COVID-19 responses. So it's kind of an open platform. I generally try to throw out a question or an idea and receive feedback from the others in the group. But at the same time, if somebody has an idea, please interject. And it's really an open discussion for both veterans and novices to the industry, as well as those who work as our business partners on a daily basis to support what we do. These are uncharted times. Nobody has a playbook, quote unquote, for this. Luckily, we can have some regional representation here. I'm all the way up in Western New York and have enjoyed the not 5-hour drive to Saratoga this year, whereas Kim and Keith are from the Hudson and the Long Island areas, which all have unique aspects to dealing with this virus. So I guess I would throw out the statement. So we've all had some type of opening. In some cases, we have just teachers in buildings. In some cases, we have hybrid students in buildings. I have heard of a few districts scattered across the state that had enough square footage that they actually have all of their students in 5 days a week. So we have that cornucopia of the different ways to deliver education at this point in time. So I guess we've all dealt with the anxiety and the fear of the unknown when it comes to bringing people back into our buildings and what that looks like, how it impacts our staffs and the way that we respond to people's fears. So I guess the question I'd pose is, anybody had issues with staff in the sense of not wanting to return to the buildings, whether it's our staffs or the professional staff of the faculty, and how have you overcome that, and what best practices can you offer the rest on this call to deal with those situations? Because it's everything from, they want the whole room sterilized every night, and some of us know that that's not a realistic expectation, or to other extraordinary measures like covering everybody in plexiglass that they can walk around the building in. So if anybody wants to start the conversation about how they've dealt with it in their particular district, I think you'll find some really great information from your peers. Okay, so Keith Watkins was saying that they were postponed on their opening due to some broadband issues. Did anyone else have that same kind of situation?
Guys, just remember to unmute your mics if you have them muted. When you probably all piled in, they were muted. I can definitely speak. We had to increase our broadband down here. We had decent amount, not enough to comply with every want, need, and issue that we experienced right after Friday, March 13th. So we did increase. We did a rather large project to increase our broadband with. It went successful. It took a little doing, but we're not seeing the issues that we did initially out of the gate.
I think Kim, I think they're intending for the folks to use the chat So if people can type their questions in, I'll just share what we've done here. We've kind of melded our surfaces and our air program together. We put together 3 or 4 items related to surfaces and 3 or 4 items related to air, and we've melded them together. We feel we've got a great program in place. We already have some special education programs functioning as we speak. We have 4 or 5 rooms being used in all 10 of our buildings right now. They're back. It's working. We've already had 2 positive cases already. So we immediately shut the room down. We waited as long as we could. We properly cleaned and disinfected, opened the room the next day. We're doing some ATP meter testing. Protocols, again, they're a little bit rough as you get your first time with them, but as these things, this is going to become the new norm. Don't freak out, don't panic. You're smart, you've got things in place, let the system work. Stay in touch with your building administration, all your leadership teams, and just make sure everyone's on the same page. There's going to be some rough spots, but just trust the system, trust what you have in place, and let it work. And we will all land on our feet. And that's a great point about being a member of this great association. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Please continue to reach out and have these types of discussions, because I think it'll be beneficial to all.
So if I can just say what our district, so we've had kind of a mix between where Kim is and where Keith is. So I brought everyone back in a hybrid model, so kind of an A cohort and B cohort, a Monday, Tuesday for the A group, and a Thursday, Friday for the B group. And that was across the entire platform, K to 12. We had probably, of 10,000 students, I had probably an average per building opt-out rate of around 20% to full hybrid, or full remote rather. So that changed some of my occupations. So some of my buildings were only, my elementaries were only seeing about 250 kids per cohort, which is a more manageable number, obviously. But then we had a little bit of a leadership change and a vacuum, if you will. So our existing superintendent was put on leave. An interim superintendent started, and we put the high schools and middle schools to fully remote while we kind of retooled, if you will. And starting on Tuesday of next week, we will start bringing back the 5th and 6th grade in their cohort, and the following week we'll bring back the 7th and 8th, and the following week we'll bring back all of the high schools. So I'll be fully occupied. But since the beginning of school, which was September 8th, my elementaries have cruised right through, and like Keith, I've had a few positive cases in a couple of my buildings. It was just a staff member who was teaching remote from the building that tested positive. And we were relying, of course, on the local health department to come in and tell us what we were allowed to do, and, who needed to leave, and what we, had to do from a contact tracing standpoint. At the elementary level, we've had a couple as well in the cohorts. And again, we've got the 2 days in, and a Wednesday fully remote, which is also a deep cleaning day. And then Thursday, Friday, the second cohort. That's worked out pretty well in the sense of the cleaning. I haven't had too many kickbacks from professional staff or my staff. I'd say the biggest challenges we've had is because of the way the requirements are set up with having, a sick room and a secondary sick room, is just making sure that you pay special attention to those, especially when you have positive cases in the district. But I'd say overall that's gone fairly well. But again, it's a learning process, and like Keith said, trust your process, trust what you set up, and the mechanisms that you've put together to address these issues. And lean on your peers to give you some answers or some directions and show you some positive results. So Corey Rooker writes, we're blessed to have a UPK through 12, 5 days per week, and are using the pool model, and are in the 5 and 0 cases so far, knock on wood. That's great. And it's amazing that you've got all the kids in for daily instruction. That's obviously where we'd all would love to be from an instructional standpoint. So that's amazing, and great job. Great job on that. I don't understand the papers on the desks idea, as the virus can live up to 3 hours on paper. Are you recycling the paper, throwing it out to avoid cleaning in each classes? That's from you, Keith. Thoughts?
Well, I'm just, listen, I never, it's what you learn after you know it all that's important. I'm sitting here with 30 years experience, and I'm hearing this paper idea. I'm trying to wrap my own head around it so I can understand it better. I understand it as an option of not being able to clean after each class period change, or that student is sitting at their desk, so it's okay for them to sit in their own germs, or whatever the concept is. I'm just trying, I don't fully understand it, so I'm sure there's folks out there that don't. If you're doing this, how, what, why, and are you finding success with it yet?
If anyone can comment that in the chat about whether that's I call it the Placemat Theory. I've heard of that a few places as well. And I think the other thing that's important to note, and Keith maybe, or Kim maybe, you have more current information, but I know the CDC was a little lagging in kind of coming out with the true definitions of lifespan on materials. You know, unlike what we had years ago with the H1N1, which was simple, they told us it survives X number of hours and, you know, you move on. So the CDC was a little slow in that. So now that we do have a little more information, it's a little easier to make better choices about when you clean, how you clean, and, you know, what could be a possible cross-contamination for the other people. Kevin Strosberg, very fortunate opening daily session since and gone smoothly. That's great. Good for you. Chad Hunt, we mean about deep cleaning. Deep cleaning is really just a euphemism. And again, it makes people feel good. Sometimes in our industry, we have to have these conversations. Our daily cleaning is cleaning and then disinfecting. So essentially that's what happens on Wednesdays. The nice thing about Wednesdays is without student occupation and only teachers, I have a little less cleaning to do per se and can spend a little more time in each one of the classrooms. Plus the common areas, the gymnasiums, the cafeterias, and those are not being utilized. So the cleaning in those areas is exceedingly light, which frees up a little bit of manpower to go after some other areas, either more intensely or areas that we don't normally get into.
Hey Keith, just on that,
yes, sir.
Just real quick on that, Chad, I understand your frustration. I've hated that term since day one. It's a buzzword for some superintendent or business official that wanted to communicate that we're doing something more than we always have. I didn't like it. We're still doing what we're doing. We're just doing it differently. I can't tell you how many requests. I actually had to make a form for all PPE requests for special ed, for nurses, for buildings, because I kept getting a request for enhanced PPE. I didn't know what the hell enhanced meant. It's all PPE. So folks were taking anything besides a mask and calling it enhanced, meaning a face shield, goggles. We need more enhanced PPE. No, it's not enhanced. It's all PPE, and it all supports each other in whatever you're trying to do or the classroom environment you're in. So understand your frustrations with that.
And I understand the Wednesday thing too. And yes, you know, you're taking these opportunities to clean when you can, whether you have the manpower to duck in between classes, especially at the elementary level when they go to a special or out of their room and you're able to get people to go into those rooms and clean when nobody is there. That's few and far between. I don't know about you, but I know me personally, to say that I have a labor shortage would be an understatement. Obviously, it's changed a little bit with the $600 extra payment for unemployment going away. We found some more candidates, and then they slowly evaporated again. You know, I'm currently down about 10% of my operating staff and facilities. So of 200, I have about 20 postings on the board right now, and that's from what I hear from my colleagues. I'm not in a strange place there. Jeff Mochin, hey Jeff, how you doing, buddy? My biggest frustration is we have suggestions and a few guidelines from the state. It would help us out at the beginning. We were told we must social distance and we must wear a mask. Yeah, we're not going to get better guidance, and we're still going to get contradictory guidance. We were talking before this seminar that the district my children attend, they spend an exorbitant amount of money. I'm not going to throw a number out to buy plexiglass with the hope that by putting in plexiglass, they could have full attendance in the building, hoping that the social distance and mask wasn't the and, it was an or. Well, it didn't come out that way. And, you know, unfortunately, welcome to education in New York State. We couldn't get in classrooms between classes to clean. This was a stopgap, or that seems a waste to me. Understandable. You know, in my high schools, when they are in person, they have 4-minute passing sessions. And with a high school, Keith has a gigantic high school, 550,000 square feet, Keith?
520, yeah.
520. My biggest is only 300,000, but with 300,000 square foot of classroom space and 4 minutes getting into every room, not physically possible. We had to purchase desk placemats for each of the high school and middle schools, Kim said, and that was just out of a request from administration?
And my apologies, guys. I'm going to say it up front if you hear an all clear, because they just did a lockdown drill, so all the bells and whistles, that's why I was muted. I think it's going to be quiet right now. Don't hold your breath. Someone might hit a wrong button again. So with that said, we were directed to purchase desk placemats for the middle school and high school due to the fact of what you're saying, Keith. It's a 4-minute change in period. They have to change into the classrooms. They can't stay in one area. You don't have art on a cart. You don't have music on a cart. So the concern was that the germs were going to travel from child to child. What a wonderful idea. Let's buy a placemat for each child and put it down, and that child, it's their own. They take it with them wherever they go. I can tell you that Broadway was littered with desk placemats from courtesy of my high school, and Peninsula Boulevard littered courtesy of middle school students. The middle school kids are a little bit better with it. We did not buy placemats for the elementaries because they were not changing. I too, like we were discussing, we need to figure out a way of how to use polycarbonate when all is said and done. It'll be a new field. I have one set, I'm not kidding, I have one set of corrugated plastic desk shields, PET, G certified by the architect, and they're thinking of buying more. I also have polycarbonate dividers in certain rooms. I had to fabricate dividers for clerical teachers. And I bought the plastic face shields. Keith Watkins was showing us before. I have those too, which again, it's not enhanced PPE. If it's good for a healthcare, it's good for a healthcare worker, guess what? It's gonna keep us safe with a mask underneath. So they have all this available, and yet it seems like every single day when there's something else that comes out, it's the latest and greatest and we have to get it. We just have to jump on it. Is this going to be sustainable? Absolutely not. It's going to decimate each and every one of the school districts in the state of New York and truthfully across the nation. I know we're a little bit more crazier in New York, but I think it's going to be problematic long term.
Bob Shangar, we only have one school open, pre-K to 2. Due to budget cuts, only have 1/3 of my staff working, and we have issues with subs right now. I think that's a universal statement. Bob, I feel your pain, and I don't think it's going to get any better when they do start to enact the financial reductions in state aid. Those districts that rely on it more heavily are going to be impacted, disproportionately. It's going to hurt our poor, our rural, our in-need districts already more than the high wealth districts, and it's going to exacerbate the situation. We've all lived through the 2008 crisis, and talking to my business official friends as well as superintendents in this area, they're thinking this is going to be 2.0 of 2008 and then some, and with no relief coming from the federal government due to the current geopolitical situation. It's going to get ugly before it gets better, folks. Mr. Riggi, how many faculty are willing to disinfect desks between classrooms? I've had some mixed results. I think my teaching staff here, and I'll defer to Kim and Keith, of course, my teaching staff here kind of threw that out as a challenge. They waited till about August 30th to say, oh, we want disinfectant in every room. Can you get us a spray bottle? Well, anybody who knows what the supply chain looks like right now, try to find 1,000 spray bottles at the end of August. Well, I was able to do it. I was able to fill it with disinfectant. The dwell time is only a minute, which is a good thing. But you do have those issues. Have they done it? Last head custodian meeting I had, nobody reported filling any of those bottles that we provided up. So obviously they're probably not using it, and if they are, it's very nominal. You do need to be careful with, obviously it cannot be used around students. That was in a few pieces of the literature from both the state and the CDC. But the other piece of that is, and Keith will point that out, is the dwell time. Depending on the product that you're using, it could be 1 minute, it could be 4 minutes, could be 5, could be 10. I don't know if there's something higher than that, but maybe there is. So you need to be careful if you are giving them that they understand that A, it can't be used around children, and B, it's not doing them the full good if they don't give it the dwell time. Yeah. Kim, are you using any?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
It has been extremely interesting because there are certain teachers and certain clerical staff units that will actually, they want it. They want to assist. They recognize this is a tremendous lift for us, given the same thing. We cannot hire, we're not allowed to hire any additional custodial staff by me. They did hire additional aides for lunch service and teachers' assistants, but they did not hire any additional substitute cleaners, custodial staff members. So we're trying to figure out the best way we can do this, and using the products that have the least amount of dwell time to get the desired result. It's very difficult to speak to educators on dwell time. I don't know why. It goes over their head. They can't get it. They had no desire whatsoever to adjust the bell schedules. Keith put it in the chat. Keith Watkins put it in the chat.
Right.
They're like, we can't do that. We can't interrupt the instruction. I'm like, do you understand the ramifications of that down the line? We are full in, guys. We started school September 8th as a hybrid, similar to you, Keith. And then we went full in on my early childhood center September 23rd. That's 450 little peanuts that came in, pre-KK first grade. And then we went full in person October 5th. That's still this week. It feels like it was a month ago at this point. And yes, with all the plexiglass and all the PPE and everything. Do I have the space to have the social distancing? No. Did they have the attorney, district counsel opine on it? Yes, they did. They read the interpretation from the state and the guidance as and or. So if you have the appropriate PPE, and you can then have everybody in. So right now we're full in, guys. It is day 3, as I say that, almost at the finish of day 3. And we have had 4 separate cases identified as COVID positive in 4 out of the 5 buildings. And again, you have to recognize the dynamic and the demographics of my area. For those of you that have may or may not been seeing, Paul Rooney, if he's on here, I'm not sure if he is.
God bless you.
We're hitting this mark insanely because we just came off we're still in the Jewish holiday of Sukkot. So we hit Rosh Hashanah and their high holy days, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and now we're in Sukkot. And that's where that population explosion has had a tremendous impact on not keeping the numbers down due to the large gatherings. Has Nassau County Police Department been on top of it, breaking them up? Absolutely. Has Department of Health been called on them? Absolutely. Did it change the mindset? Absolutely not. So it's very, very challenging. So we're only as good as the next COVID case, as we keep saying. So DOH has not shut us down, just for all of you. DOH has been in. We shared our plan with them. Back in June, I was on conference calls with Nassau County Department of Health. We shared our plans so that they knew. They're fine with us staying open. Again, doing the same cleaning, disinfecting protocol as Keith was speaking about earlier, Keith Watkins, and then reopening the next day. So has it been a challenge? You betcha. My concern with it is when they identify a student or a staff member, for that matter, a parent, if they come in to pick up a child, because we've had that as well, the parent tested positive, the child wasn't positive yet, but then the child got a positive test, but mommy and daddy just came in to get that child. It becomes difficult to manage that, even though they're telling us, do you have a fever? Do you have COVID? No, no, no. Well, then we find out later, guess what? They did have COVID. So it would be extremely nice that people would be courteous and kind to one another and actually state how they feel and not jeopardize the health, safety, and well-being of anyone else. So that's been our challenge at this point. For those of you that may or may not see, de Blasio has shut several zip codes. My sister is a teacher in Far Rockaway, which if I could throw a rock and hit Far Rock and throw another rock and hit JFK airport, that is going to come back to bite them in spades. How do you, and just think of this in our own districts, how do you close for an extended period of time schools that didn't have one positive case? So you may have had yeshivas or private or non-public schools that had cases, but what they're doing is closing the entire zip code. these parents, I'm waiting for the news because it's going to hit the fan down here. And it's not fair to the kids. Every single child that I've welcomed in has actually said thank you. They're skipping into the building. And this is middle school, because I was at the middle school opening too, directing traffic. And they're like, Miss Parahus, Miss P, thank you so much, because we wanted to be here. So when you see the way the kids act and they don't have that social interaction, a screen is great. We can all talk, but the problem is they're missing that component. So any thoughts on that? Anybody else?
Go ahead, Keith.
I'm just going to add, I put a comment in there. Use the chat box, folks. We've got like 4 or 5 questions lingering in the questions and answer. Just use the chat. We want to make sure we try to get to everyone's answers, get to their questions. Real quickly, I saw something from Daryl Clisson. There's a sulfa content oxivir, maybe some new allergies. Again, as we're doing so many new things, a lot of things that we don't know, like I've always provided nitrile and vinyl gloves, not latex, because the allergies that are hidden there. But we are using oxivir during the day because it has a 0 health rating. We're using Hilliard products at night, CC17 machines. It has a Rejuvenol, has a 10-minute dwell time, but the oxivir has a 1-minute dwell time during the day, a 30-second sanitizer. So I think what is hard for many of us to deal with is the fact that we've always been so consistent and standardized in what we've always done, because standardization is key in our profession. So now we're dealing with 2 and 3 types of cleaning chemical systems. We are now having to thicken our books of our SDSs. We're now having to do things over in a different way that we're not used to. But due to supply chain issues and the ability to have the least amount of dwell time on our products, we are now venturing into new worlds. A lot of us are, a little bit, my OCD's kicked in crazily. So just understand you've got to do these things. I see a lot of questions about doors being left open. I'll let Keith go back to moderating because we want to get answers to your questions as much as possible through this segment. So thank you.
And I want to jump into something that Keith mentioned, and I see also, well, actually it was from you, Keith, about Oxivar wipes. So I know I've heard a lot of guys reach out in various forums saying that they were inability to get wipes, Oxivar wipes and others, and brand name Lysols and whatever are weeks, months out. I do know that in certain, and again, I can't speak for distribution in localities other than mine, but I do know there is an availability of the blank tubs and the refill wipes that you can charge with your own disinfectant. You label it as such with your regular SDS sheet, and it can be used as a wipe. So those guys that were having trouble supplying pre-moistened, whether it's Oxivar or pick another product, and I'm just saying that because it's a trade name most guys know, you can buy a blank wipe, if you will, in a blank bucket and fill it with your own product, which is obviously pretty cost effective, and it's easy to keep rolling. I found that the refills are available. Again, I think I distributed 1,200 of them maybe a month and a half ago, and I've had no troubles ordering more wipes to fill the buckets that are out there. So that's just an option for people who can't get a hold of pre-moistened wipes. To Keith, yes, some teachers are willing to help us, some are not. Playgrounds, no. Bob Shangar asked about cleaning playgrounds. I resorted to the CDC language, which is still in there. I looked at the update the other day. It said that using disinfectant on playgrounds, sidewalks, outdoor surfaces, roadways, etc., is a waste of product and essentially not a big deal. What I do ask my daytime cleaners, and we talked about subs and unavailability. I know most districts are now in that extended feeding program where we're feeding now all the way apparently through July 1 to the communities. But in a lot of cases for districts that may not be fully open or they're in a hybrid or whatever, you may be able to harvest child nutrition staff if that's an in-house process for you to help you during the day. If they're not getting their hours they normally would get in their building helping with meal prep and meal delivery, you might be able to harvest them, which is what we've done on an interim basis to be in the buildings daytime doing high touch surface cleaning, etc. I do ask them to go out to the playgrounds and just do the handlebars and those common places. And again, that's really a belt and suspenders. It's not necessary. And again, the CDC protects us by saying that's a waste of product. So playgrounds, maybe not so much. Eric, I don't know your last name, but how you doing, Eric? Getting pushback from some teachers that don't feel it's their job to clean 2 sewer line stoppages from paper towels and wipes. Yeah, I had to put a an idiot memo out that said, please do not flush the wipes. They're not biodegradable and our sewer systems suck and they're not going to work. So I feel your pain there, been there. You're really just an education piece. Try to maybe I do it where I invite the administrators into that conversation and say, at your next faculty meeting, remember, it's just like having a baby in the house. It's not a good idea. We have teachers using disinfectant wipes between cohorts in our secondary, middle schools, high schools, 550. John Thurner, in middle schools, 300. That's great that they're willing to help you out. Again, anybody you can enlist to give you assistance in doing what you need to do to get down the road, it's awesome. We are cleaning 70 plus rooms, Matt Irwin, 70 plus rooms in our high school. Bus drivers lost their Wednesday runs and have been helping to supplement our team. Again, another labor source. If your transportation department is in-house, you can reach out to their director and say, hey, who's not getting hours, or what runs aren't being filled? Maybe sports aren't running. And I know that's different in every section. What sports are available, what sports are traveling. I know up here, there's a bunch of districts that their swim teams, for instance, are not allowed to go to other pools and swim. They're swimming virtually. So that's freed up some transportation people. So that might be a source of manpower for people. But Matt continued on. There are a few hours for transition, and my maintenance team is also helping out. Keith Watkins, altering, extending bell schedules. Kim spoke of that as well. I was a big advocate for that in our district, and I was told no. Whereas the district my children went to, they extended their high school transition time to 10 minutes, and they actually won't let the children go back into the room until 5 minutes has passed from bell to bell, and that's giving them the time to clean those rooms. Their teachers, for instance, have been, I would say, probably 80% receptive to helping. Matt Irwin, down 10% in staffing, 10% positions vacant, and subs trickling in. We've even upped our rate to $15 an hour for subs. Not to get into an elaborate economics discussion, but I think we've all determined that the $600 a week to stay home was enough to make most of our people that would apply for these jobs not come to work for us. And then it would appear that the $200 or whatever it was the state was offering most recently was not enough to keep them home, that they were actually applying for our jobs. But so somewhere in the middle there is a sweet spot. So if the federal government comes out with some type of additional stimulation or recovery, if it's above about $250, $300, we're going to still maintain this labor shortage that we're seeing. John, again, we bought more time by doing that. Yeah, that's great. We do have some staff, Daryl Clisson, staff to refuse to assist in disinfection, still working through that. Again, every group is going to be different. Some teachers' unions are incredibly powerful and drive the ship. Other ones are a little bit more willing. I don't think there's a rhyme and reason. I've talked to people in small districts who have 100% kickback, and I've talked to people in big districts who have 100% participation. So again, it's the ask, we're partners, we're working through this together. How can we work together to get to the end goal, which is getting all the kids back in the classroom and teaching them, which is why we have a job. There are some questions in the Q&A box. I'll get to them in a second, Robin. Thank you. How are we running fire drills? Vernon, I'm having lots of resistance. They want to spread out evacuation by class during the day rather than all at once and maintain social distance. Keith or Kim, care to chime in on that one?
We're gonna still do it as planned. If it falls on the day that you're in person, then have it. They're trying to, because we're similar with you, Keith. We're cohort Monday, Tuesday, off cohort Thursday, Friday. There is some flex in that too. That's my understanding right now, but we will continue to do that. We have all of our floor decals down, all of our one-way stairwells if they're not bi-directional. So there is a plan, but I said from the beginning, you got to communicate that all that goes out the window in the event of an emergency. Don't worry about which way the floor sticker says. So you need to go by the map that should be by the door in a spot. So again, there's conflicting communications on that, but I'm still waiting. We're starting back on October 19th due to a broadband issue, and then we will more to follow on how those drills go.
And we are doing the drills like we did. We're trying to maintain 6-foot distancing. As I said, we just did a lockdown drill. We're doing modified lockdown drills. They're sitting in their desks. They're not getting up. They're not hiding in the corner. However, to Keith Watkins' point, all bets are off. If you don't know that every drill is being announced, fire, lockdown, lockout. And if you don't hear that announcement before, you know it's real. So you're not going down the one-way staircase where the flames and smoke are. Let's use common sense. We're going to back away and we're going to use the other one, even though the floor is marked out like that. They've done several drills already, and believe it or not, it's October 5th. They initially started on the hybrid, like you, Keith, doing one on cohort A, one on cohort B, just so that everyone had at least one drill underneath their belt for a little bit of comfort level for the parents and community members. But now we're in, and they're going like gangbusters right now with the drills.
Okay, Belden, are most schools going hybrid, taking Wednesdays off? I think it's a mix. I know in my particular case, my severely disabled population, which statistically is very small for me, it's 169 students out of 10,000, as well as my new English language learners, which was the old ESLs. They're all going 5 days, so that group is staying in. But I've heard variations of this hybrid. I know some are staying on an A, B, C, D calendar day schedule, and some of them are like, we're Monday, Tuesday, and then a Thursday, Friday group. My kids' district is a Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday group, except for the middle school and elementaries, which are staying in cohorts. So they're staying in 3 days in a row and then 3 days off. So they could go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but then not go Thursday, Friday, and Monday. So there's all sorts of permutations of that. I do agree with you, the deep clean on the Wednesday. Again, the deep clean is just verbiage. It was thrown out by my previous superintendent, and unfortunately I couldn't get in front of the train before it got released in a press release. So I'm stuck with it. So if you go on my website, you're gonna see it, whether I think it's true or not. I do agree with you, a Friday clean would obviously be much better. But again, going back to the whole CDC and the lifespan of this virus on inanimate objects, you know, when we talk about how long it lasts on wood, on stainless steel, on plastic, on paper, it's going to turn out like H1N1 in the sense where, in those who weren't around in 2008 for H1N1, you could close the door on H1N1 and not clean, and by the morning there was nothing alive in the room. So we're not quite there yet where we can have that assurance. So we're still doing everything we're doing, which is the right thing. But I agree with you on the Wednesday thing. Keith, 44 part-time staff have been let go until further notice. That's you, KW? Wow, that's insane.
Yeah, we have what we call fixed and flexible hourlies. The flexible hourlies were what we call our subs. Our fixed hourlies were the ones who reported every day for 5.5 hours per day. 44 of them were in place every day reporting for 5.5 hours. They have been told to stay home until further notice.
Without pay?
Without pay.
Correct. From Jim, in the process of hiring additional cleaners, BOE is in agreement, staff is getting worn out, and that's an awesome point. Staff burnout, you know, again, back in the day, you'd have a little flare up, you'd have this or that, you'd have a run of influenza or, you know, whatever would happen in a building, and you'd go crazy for a week. We could maintain this for a week. Maybe we can maintain it for 2 or 3 weeks, but staff fatigue is a real thing. And that's something you need to be aware of. You need to take advantage of whether it's the school-based breaks, again, depending on how your calendar is built around religious holidays and such, those days that we don't have students and staff in the building, to give staff the break of not having to go through that intensive process of cleaning and then disinfecting every surface in a room is a very valuable process. And I've really been advocating, you know, sports again is a different conversation, but we don't have a lot of inside-based sports. Obviously, you know, the things that we're allowing to happen right now are like cross country and tennis and golf and field hockey and soccer and girls swimming. So girls swimming is the only thing in the building. But when I get push in from the athletics department, who I have a great relationship with, and they say, I want to run this football camp in the gym, the answer is no. I'm not going to clean the gym. Go somewhere else. Go outside. The weather's still nice. Again, sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't. Daryl talking about the sulfur component issue in Oxavar. I have heard some cases of that. And again, like Keith said, we're in a situation now where not only supply chain is driving what we're using, but also this kind of myriad of applications. We're using Oxavar because it's got a short dwell time, but like Keith explained in his process, he's got a Hilliard product that he's using at night. It's a longer dwell process, but probably get away from the sulfur issue with the Oxavar. There's also, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, and again, memory's a little foggy. I think Ecolab has something called 20, That's their disinfectant. It used to be called 2.0 and got turned into 20, went from green to purple. Its dwell time, again, is also 10 minutes like the Hilliard product, but I don't believe it has the sulfa issue. So if that's really becoming an issue for you, Daryl, maybe explore that.
Yeah, and Ecolab also has come out with a hydrogen peroxide-based product with a 1-minute dwell time, which we knew it would just be a matter of time with all of the press for Oxivir. So I'm aware that Enviro, Chem Labs, and Ecolab now have a 1-minute hydrogen peroxide-based cleaner. Actually, Kohl's department stores have the Ecolab product. It's a 11-cent product. You'll see it at all their checkouts in a spray bottle. It's a 1-minute dwell time hydrogen peroxide based.
RTU or something that's a dilution base?
I haven't seen many hydrogen peroxide based products in a dispensing. It's mostly RTU, so I don't know the answer to that, but I've been looking for those as well.
Again, this is why we're having these conversations, folks. Vernon, also big pushback on doors with closers on them being chalked and held open. Union wants doors open and windows increase. We want to follow fire codes. Actually, and I'm not going to get into the weeds, but I do believe I read a press release from Safe Facilities Planning kind of relieving us from the door issue. Again, we're so drilled in our head about what we're supposed to do for meeting fire code, but I believe they said we could chalk open the doors contrary to fire code, which again, you got your fire guy on this side and you got the devil on that side. What are we doing here? And as for the windows, again, you know, I'm a big preacher of my HVAC systems were built to provide the outside air that these rooms require, and that's without windows open, without doors open. Yes, you can increase it, but to what degree? You know, again, gets into that fan conversation, which I've been advised by our design engineers not to allow individual fans in rooms, et cetera, et cetera. But again, every little, you know, Kim's having that conversation now where their attorneys are involved, their design professionals are involved. So that's kind of more of a building by building, district by district conversation. I'd hate to give you advice and then have you be shot down, whether it be by your code official, your fire marshal, or someone else in your district. But I believe, and again, Keith and Kim, maybe you can correct me, I believe there is a document from facilities planning.
I'm looking at it right now, and because I didn't think I heard you the right way, but it just says that this temporary measure will allow doors without automatic door closers to be left open. So again, that 1984, 1985 fire code law that said any door equipped with a life safety measure, meaning a door closer, must remain closed. So unfortunately, if it has a door closer, it still needs to be shut. It cannot be propped open based on this, you know, you can read it 10 different ways, but I know we're reading it. And again, remember who I work with, Mr. Thurnow. He is saying, if it has a door closer, it is not being propped open. We are not going around that fire code guidance.
Eric spoke, agree with you, Jim. My staff is worn out looking to implement a sublist and hiring staff if possible. But again, that's going to get more difficult due to our financial situations. Kim, is Hewlett-Woodmere a cluster area? No, but she borders one.
Yes.
Right next to it. Lawrence is. I saw Jimmy Restano. Hey, Jimmy. Yeah, we're right there, and they're watching the numbers because, you know, anybody who came down to Long Island knows what Long Island looks like. We're right on top of each other. So it's going to be interesting to watch the numbers this week. There was also guidance, and guys, please take back, if you go to the New York State SFA website on the COVID-19, because we've been doing the Zoom meetups, a lot of the data and information that keeps coming out, and I know my desk is littered with all the guidance that has come out. Go to that website. We've tried to craft and carve out to the best of our ability the latest and greatest. And the last thing that I did receive, we were talking about it before, was New York State Department of Health. There was a pre-K through 12 checklist toolkit that came out. I did share it with Robin. She will post it up. And that's circa September 2020. So that's the last thing that I've seen from New York State Department of Health. That doesn't mean that each locality could also have, because we got to listen in New York State, and then I have to listen in Nassau County, and Keith has to listen to where he is, and Keith at Langlotz has to listen to the lovely folks upstate. So it's all contingent upon the layers. You have to look at that. And they had our attorneys, to your point, Keith Watkins, because I read it the same way. My attorney did not interpret it that way. But then again, he doesn't have the distinct pleasure of working with Mr. Coulter now.
Yes, it's a distinct pleasure. And by that, I mean not at all. So anyways, with that said, I'm seeing a lot of comments about the hydrogen peroxide. And my point earlier is yes, I'm aware of many systems that have a hydrogen peroxide dispensing system. Oxivir comes in a 5 and a 16. But I was specifically looking for a concentrate dilution that still has that 1 minute dwell time. So that's the difference in the concentrate versus RTU.
I'm going to jump real quick, just to keep everyone honest. I have exactly 12 minutes of run time left before we get cut off at the knees. I jumped into the Q&A section real quick. We couldn't get into classrooms between classes to clean. This was a stopgap for that. Seems like a waste to me. Understand? I'm sorry, that was from Eric. W. Jennings, half of my school is hybrid. The other half comes in on Tuesdays and Fridays with Mondays off for a deep clean. Again, I feel your pain. John Young, is there a definitive guidance order that suggests dictate the amount of lead runtime and post-occupancy runtime for the building air handling systems? Actually, I think the guidance said 2 and 2. I could be incorrect on that. It was 2 hours pre-occupation and 2 hours post-occupation that you're supposed to run your HVAC systems in their normal setting, if you will. It's kind of like if you ever dealt with a demand control ventilation system, they have a 1 hour fresh air purge pre and post occupation. The concept here was more of just operational running at those levels. It wasn't driving your outside dampers to 100% and then trying to freeze up your coils. But maybe Keith and Kim, if I'm wrong on that, please shake your head and tell me I'm wrong.
No, you are correct, Keith. You are correct.
Okay. Jim, sorry about spell check. And I was able to purchase dry wipes, Kevin Storsberg, and use my own Oxivar TB product. I purchased them from Swish. Great. Thank you for the information. Again, every area has different vendors, and I don't profess to know everyone across the state, although I think Keith Watkins does.
Yeah.
Daryl Clisson, fortunately, we were able to stock up in April, but it's always good to have alternatives. Absolutely, because supply chain is a funny thing right now. I had a neighbor run through one of my garage doors of one of my shops. What can I get? The hinges for garage doors. They're back ordered for months. How? I don't know. Kevin Storsberg, small buckets of dry wipes and a battery operated pump to moisten them, 5-gallon bucket of Oxivar, which is economical. Absolutely. And again, back to Keith's point where he's talking about trying to find something that's in that peroxide base, but it is a dilution product, because it would be obviously the cost per fluid ounce would drop tremendously from an RTU. Eric's taking a poke at Keith's lighting in his office. I don't know, maybe he should call somebody about that. I think he's got people for that. Hi, Jim. The HWPS is not a cluster area. Lawrence County is. Yes, I know, Kim. I'm having a great frequency of custodial callouts for non-COVID related issues. This is from Eric, and it's Ecolab Q57 has a 45-second dwell. Wow, did not know that. So Q would be the non-quick click version, right? Q is the other dispensing system. Okay. Buckeye has Russo 2. Our Russo 2 said Buckeye has a hydrogen peroxide through their eco dispensing system. Oh, interesting. Thank you very much. Actually, I ended up with from an alcohol hand sanitizer, a Buckeye product. I believe it was labeled under a triad label or something. And it was a foaming alcohol based, that met the 60% rule. QC approved for electrostatic sprayer as well, Eric said. I want to throw this one out and maybe people can react to it. We have 9 minutes. Did anyone have alternatives to the alcohol? Now, I know the CDC is sponsored by Purell, and therefore that's why the alcohol is the rules. So we all had to jump and try to find alcohol and get dispensers and everything else. Did anyone else go the other way as a kind of a backup or additional dispensers and go to something that's like benzoate based or anything like that? And did you get pushback, or did you get support, or how did that work out?
We offered the BZK based by BioProtect. So we had some kids and some staff whose hands with, we had stuff from 60% to 85%. I felt like drinking it, but I didn't. So we offered the BZK because they had irritations and negative responses to it. So we are still offering both, but we have to have the alcohol, but we're also offering the other one as another alternative.
We did the same thing here, Keith. I'm using the Symmetry at this point.
Oh, Symmetry, that was it, Buckeye.
We had, it's amazing. And I fought it tooth and nail because we have therapy dogs. And the reason why I went with the bio-based VAC backing was because it has 2 more maladies that it cures, one being Bordetella. Because now that they're bringing the doggies in, a doggie may have Bordetella. So we did our homework and I said, I like this. And it was not burning the kid's hand, and anyone who has an alcohol intolerance, it's not going to hurt them. We had, and you've probably heard me beforehand say, we were watching little ones when this first started evolving, and they were using their hand sanitizers that mommy and daddy gave them, the little Bath and Beyond Body Works,
Yeah, but it was raspberry pastry.
Yes, it was. And their skin was raw because mommy and daddy told them, keep using it, keep using it. And again, that's how we were starting to see alcohol intolerances in the students here.
So I did both just for all, transparency. So I'm kind of an old school fire guy. I didn't like the idea of all those alcohol dispensers in my hallways. I know that the state did put out a rule that you could have so many per linear foot, etc. I kind of went old school in the hallways. I did benzoate, and then in the classrooms, middle school and high school, I provided alcohol hand dispensers that they could use for both staff and students. At the elementary level, I gave them nothing in the classrooms, and I drove them to their sinks with soap and water, which is still the first line of defense. I'm still getting pushback for that, but I got a little grief on the benzoate because it was not on the CDC's must-have list. I'm reading a couple of the things. Jeff Mochin was, his staff was all about the 60% alcohol. Yeah, I got beat up on that a lot, and that's why I put the dispensers I did in the classrooms. We were in a kind of a tumultuous time right before school opened, and I had the dispensers in stock, and I was waiting to place them because I didn't want them to disappear. So I placed them like the second last day before students came in, and then all that went down to a dull roar. Jim Restano was mentioning that he's using the Cuomo cologne, such as this. Anyone who hasn't been in a state park men's bathroom lately, if you're feeling nostalgic, you can smell this. Here in Plattsburgh, we did not get any pushback. There's a great elementary school, Spartan Foamy IQ. I used that years ago. I love that stuff. And they got the nice dispensers with the soap bubble eyes. Yeah, it makes people feel good. We're using CC17 machines, Keith. Yes, absolutely. And applying cleaning chemicals and second shift through these machines and the pressure hose nozzle, 1 flat mop per room, and all the microfiber laundered by Sensus. Ooh, outsource the laundry too. Really? Nice.
Yes, liability concerns. I wasn't totally convinced that our program was thorough enough, so we didn't want to. So custodial staff was happy to see it go away and happy to receive those fresh things every week.
That's very nice. Pete Riggy said that Jim Restano, the Cuomo cologne has a garlic base. Yes, I believe it does, Pete. Thank you for that. D. Belden just saying thank you for the 3 of you for this time. I'm sure it helped me out a lot listening, and thank you. This is why we do these things, guys. And I don't ever pretend that anybody here is smarter than anyone else. I stole this idea from another trade show years ago. So this is just us rehashing stuff we've gone to shows and seen and heard and thought it was valuable for what we do for a living. And that's why we do this. And I can't say this enough. When you fill out your evaluations, please be honest and direct. If you have other topics that could use something like this or other topics that you need us to cover or get experts for, please be as detailed as possible in those responses, even though I'm not in the leadership team anymore. Kim will appreciate the honesty and the feedback.
Absolutely.
Using BioProtect, Keith Watkins, coding, 90-day efficacy, did a piggyback bid here in New Rochelle. Great addition to the plan, which Keith will also share that piggyback bid for anybody who direct emails him. as he did for me, to share with a neighboring district. 5-minute warning. Thank you, Luann. Yeah, I got 3 on my phone.
Me too.
Being a chief of the local PD, I had, Bill Dorzak. Being a chief of the local fire department, I had the same reservations about so many alcohol dispensers in the buildings. And again, they did set up rules, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't go into them. I used the old rules, which just said nothing flammable in the hallways. Like I said, I got a little bit of pushback on it, but in the end, I prevailed because all my non-alcohol dispensers are in the hallway and all the alcohol's in the room. Thanks, Pete. W. Jennings, my elementary has Spartan Foamy IQ sanitizers. Again, used it years ago. Beautiful stuff. Thanks for the session. Pat Hughes, Bob Schonger. Thank you, Bob. Thanks everybody for joining it. Now it's 3 minutes. I know I got it. Derek McManus, 2 Keiths. No, there's really only 1 Keith. That's Keith Watkins. I'm just that other guy. And Tim Almay, great job, folks. Good luck with all of your challenges. Regards, Tim. Oh, retired. Hey, enjoy your retirement, Tim. Someday we'll all be there, I hope.
Yes.
All right. Any last questions? Any comments, Kim, Keith?
No, just want to say thanks, everybody. Don't let this stop when we sign off. There's emails, there's ways to collaborate. Thank you all for your time today. Appreciate it.
Really, truly do, guys. Please let us know if there's anything. I want to echo Keith and Keith's sentiment. Thank you very much for joining us today. We're going to hop off. We're going to go to Wine and Win. So everybody that's coming off of this, join us there. Thank you so much, guys. Take care. Stay sane. Bye.
Stay safe, everybody.